Hardcore.
They're petrified of some kind of backlash.
I wanted my money back. It was very disappointing.
Disney's live-action remake of Snow White has become one of the most contentious films in recent years, and much of the blame has fallen squarely on the shoulders of Rachel Zegler, the actress cast in the iconic role of Snow White. What should have been a fresh take on a classic fairy tale turned into a public relations nightmare, one fueled by Ziegler's divisive comments and the film's questionable artistic choices. The fallout has been swift and severe, leaving Disney scrambling to understand how things went so wrong. In this breakdown, we'll explore how one actress's attitude and the studio's questionable decisions contributed to the disastrous performance of Snow White. 2025. The initial excitement surrounding Ziegler's casting came from her previous work in West Side Story, where she impressed critics and audiences alike. But as soon as she began to speak about her new role, things started to take a turn for the worse. Interviews with Zegler quickly became a flashpoint for controversy. In one notable instance, she openly criticized the original 1937 Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, calling it odd and outdated. To many fans, this comment felt not only dismissive of a beloved classic, but condescending, as though she was mocking the very film that made her role possible. Ziegler's attitude toward the original film seemed to signal a broader attempt by Disney to distance itself from its legacy, opting instead to create a new version of Snow White that was more modern and progressive. But these changes didn't come off as updates. They felt more like a rejection of everything that made the original film magical. Ziegler's characterization of Snow White as a character who doesn't need a prince and doesn't believe in true love was framed as an empowering shift for the character, but many fans saw it as an assault on the heart of the story. The love story was a fundamental part of Snow White's journey, and by stripping it away, Disney alienated audiences who had connected with the timeless romance. The idea that Snow White doesn't need a prince was touted as a feminist upgrade, but in practice, it made the story feel hollow. What made the 1937 film so enchanting was the balance between innocence and fantasy, the notion of a love so pure that it transcended obstacles. In Snow White 2025, however, the love story was dismissed as irrelevant, and in its place, we were left with a heroine who came across more as an insufferable, whiny brat than a beloved Disney princess. This new Snow White didn't seek love. She sought to reject it entirely, and that simply didn't sit well with fans who wanted to see a modern princess who could still embrace romance while maintaining her independence. Ziegler's unfiltered political commentary further compounded the film's problems. Early on, she made aggressive remarks about former President Donald Trump and those who supported him, saying that she hoped Trump supporters never know peace. This type of rhetoric was widely seen as divisive and alienating, especially considering the large number of families who make up Disney's core audience. While Disney movies are known for their universal appeal, Ziegler's comments left many fans feeling excluded, particularly those with conservative views. The backlash was immediate, and while Zegler did attempt an apology, it came across as insincere to many. She seemed more interested in defending her stance than in truly empathizing with those she had offended. At a time when Disney needed to focus on bringing people together, Ziegler's public persona seemed to do the exact opposite. She didn't just criticize the 1937 classic, she criticized a huge portion of the American population, and did so in a way that made it clear she wasn't interested in any sort of reconciliation. Her behavior alienated a significant portion of the movie-going public, and it wasn't just conservative viewers who were put off. Even many liberals found her tone to be overly harsh and unnecessary, making it difficult for them to rally behind her film. The public's growing dissatisfaction with Ziegler's comments and the film's overall direction led to a series of boycotts. Fans took to social media to express their displeasure, with some even calling for a full boycott of the film. The movie's release was delayed by a year, with some speculating that Disney was hoping Ziegler's reputation would improve in the interim. However, the damage had been done. The film's once promising reception was now tainted by the actress's divisive comments, and the studio's attempt to modernize the classic was seen by many as a misguided attempt to please a vocal minority at the expense of the larger fan base. In addition to the controversy surrounding Zegler, the film's script and direction were also heavily criticized. Disney had marketed the remake as a new take on the original, but rather than respectfully modernizing the story, they seemed to have thrown out everything that made Snow White memorable. The addition of unnecessary musical numbers only lengthened the runtime, making the film feel bloated and disconnected from the pacing of the original. The classic song, "Someday My Prince Will Come," was replaced by a modernized feminist anthem. That left fans scratching their heads. The new lyrics were vague and nonsensical, and many viewers felt that the song lost its emotional resonance. The prince, once a symbol of true love and devotion, was reduced to a strange cameo, barely mentioned and completely detached from the original narrative. Instead of the classic tale of love conquering all, we were left with a muddled message. That seemed more concerned with politics than with storytelling. Critics also took issue with the decision to remove the dwarfs entirely, following an outcry from actor Peter Dinklage, who claimed that casting little people in the roles was offensive. Rather than finding a way to modernize the dwarfs in a thoughtful and respectful way, Disney opted for CGI creatures, which were quickly deemed unmemorable and uninteresting. The decision to eliminate the dwarfs, rather than simply casting a more diverse group of actors, felt like a missed opportunity. Many fans felt that the studio had sacrificed authenticity and inclusion for the sake of political correctness, and the result was a film that seemed like a hollow shell of its former self. When the movie was released, it performed poorly at the box office, grossing only around $43 million opening weekend, far below the expected $150 million. This catastrophic result, especially considering the $200 million budget, sent shockwaves through Disney. The film's poor performance raised questions about the future of the live-action remake era, with many speculating that the studio might need to reevaluate its approach. The failure of Snow White. 2025 wasn't just about the poor reception of the film, it was about how Disney had miscalculated the public's willingness to embrace a modernized version of a beloved classic, especially when it came at the cost of the magic and charm that made the original so enduring. The film's failure is a stark reminder that audiences value respect for the source material. While it's not wrong to update a story for modern sensibilities, that process must come from a place of understanding and appreciation for what made the original so special. The failure of Snow White. 2025 can be attributed to the film's tone-deaf approach to storytelling, the alienating behavior of its lead actress, and the heavy-handed political messaging that overshadowed the magic of the original. Disney's attempts to update the film were far too focused on pushing a particular agenda rather than on creating a movie that could appeal to a wide audience. In the wake of the film's failure, industry insiders have speculated about the future of Rachel, Zegler's career. While her talent is undeniable, her divisive public persona has made her a risky choice for major studio films, especially those aimed at family audiences. Disney, in particular, may be hesitant to cast her in future projects, given the backlash that her involvement in Snow White generated. Zegler's comments have branded her as box office poison for some, and Hollywood may be reluctant to take a chance on her for future big-budget films. Disney, too, has learned a harsh lesson from the Snow White debacle. The studio's reliance on nostalgia has always been a cornerstone of its success, but the failure of Snow White 2025 highlights the dangers of alienating loyal fans in the pursuit of progressive ideals. The company's future reboots and remakes will need to strike a delicate balance between honoring the spirit of the original films while also addressing contemporary issues. If Disney can't find that balance, it risks further alienating audiences and continuing the downward spiral of its live-action remake era. In the end, the downfall of Snow White 2025 wasn't just about the casting of one actress or the changes to the script. It was about how Disney's attempt to modernize a classic led them to completely lose touch with the very essence of the story. Fans don't want to see their beloved characters turned into political statements. They want to feel the magic, the warmth, and the joy that made those characters so iconic in the first place. Disney's attempt to remake Snow White without respect for its origins is a cautionary tale for the future of reboots. If you try to fix something that isn't broken, you risk destroying what made it great in the first place.